Tell Us About Yourself, Conversations with Game Show Contestants is produced in partnership with the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, one of the largest history museums in the United States, and one of the leading museums serving families with highly interactive exhibits and programs. Since 1968, the Strong Museum has been dedicated to exploring the ways in which play encourages learning, creativity, and discovery, and how it illuminates cultural history. And their National Archives of Game Show History. Founded by industry veterans Bob Bowden and Howard Blumenthal, the archive is home to thousands of artifacts representing over 80 years of broadcasting, including props, set designs, video interviews with game show professionals, and other iconic elements from the history of television at play. For more information about the National Archives of Game Show History or the Strong National Museum of Play, visit museumofplay.org or call area code 585-263-2700.
Blue 35.
Tell us about yourself, would you?
Tell us something about you.
For any new viewers, won't you tell us again about yourself?
We've met before, but let's meet again. Tell us about
What
yourself.
else can you tell us about yourself?
Perhaps you'd fill us in again and tell us about yourself.
I'm Patrick Hackett. I'm from North Haven, Connecticut, and I'm a substitute teacher. In 2013, I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I won $250,000. And just recently, this year in 2023, I was on You Bet Your Life with Jay Leno and won the most money that you can.
So, Pat, tell me about where game shows fit into your life growing up before you became a contestant. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a game show fan were you?
I don't think I'm a 10 because I hear conversations that you have, and I'm kind of lost in them. But I'm like a solid 8. I think the Nickelodeon game shows really spoke to me. I like the ones where you got moving.
So like Double Dare and Guts and Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Back in the day, Finders Keepers. Finders Keepers was a really fun one.
Oh, that was an amazing show with a big house.
Yeah, which
That's
I
a good
believe
one.
became the Legends of the Hidden Temple set.
No way.
I am almost positive. I
No
don't have a fact check on that,
way.
but I'm pretty sure the Finders Keeper set became the Legends of the Hidden Temple set.
All right, I'm looking at my producers at the table, which is just my cat on top of the air conditioner.
No, I hope the cat doesn't actually have the answer. That'd be, and then because you and I were from the same area, did Lifetime have game shows on when we were kids?
Lifetime had game shows. Lifetime had Supermarket Sweep. That was the big one.
Right. And what was the mall one that they had?
Shop Till You Drop.
I loved that show.
Did you? I did not like, I don't know why. I did not mess with that show. I could not get into it.
I don't know what it was about, but there was just something about, I don't know. I liked answering questions and running around at the same time. It felt good.
Well, that's what a lot of these shows have in common. Like you said,
Yeah.
the ones that get you moving, the physical shows.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good for TV too, because you want to see people jumping around and running around and being excited and having fun. That's part of what spoke to game shows. That's part of what spoke to me about game shows when I was younger. Just the energy, it was contagious.
In your conversation with Cory Anotado, you asked, is it the game or the show? And for me, growing up with a background in professional wrestling, it is 100% the show.
Well, I was going to ask about that because you and I have talked on a previous podcast project that I used to do, and we talked at length about wrestling and your love of wrestling and how it played into your personality and the way game shows played into my personality, growing up and absorbing the traits and the habits and the verbal and physical cues from the people that I loved on TV. The same thing with you in wrestling. So I was curious to know, how early on in your life did you notice what I consider to be the similarities between game shows and professional wrestling to the degree that it's portrayed on TV? I think they both contain elements of showmanship. There's an idea of being the strongest, being the best, being the winner, and reveling in that victory. I wonder if you picked up on those similarities growing up.
I don't know if I did. I'm looking at it now and I'm like, oh yeah, those are really, really common things. I think the thing that really connected with me is that Vince McMahon was, by all intents and purposes, the face of WWE. And if you had a little bit of knowledge, you also knew that he ran the thing. And so I'm pretty sure that I thought like Bob Barker was in charge of the prices, right? Like soup to nuts. Same thing with Trebek and Jeopardy, because it just seemed like so much that it was their show. Just like growing up, all the wrestling shows seemed like they were Vince's shows.
Sure. Well, that's what a good game show host does, I think, right? They have that authoritarian sort of quality about them. And, it's clear, even from watching the show, like without sound from a distance, you can look and see that guy with the suit and the microphone. That's his show. He's running that thing.
Yeah. And to an extent, I feel like it really takes on the personality of the host as well. I think the switch from Bob to Drew, you saw a little bit of change in the way The Price is Right was going to work. I think you see it now with Ken, Mike Kennemy, taking over Jeopardy for Trebek. And even the differences between him and Mayim Bialik and the way that they both host. And it's really interesting that I don't think I was picking up on those comparisons until this conversation. I have said that I don't think I would have done as well on Millionaire if it was, oh my God, from the Today Show she hosted right after Reach, Katie Couric, right?
No, a Millionaire?
Meredith.
Yeah.
Meredith.
Yeah, Meredith. Right.
I don't know if I would have done as well with Meredith because she has a different vibe. And I don't know, there's something not cold, but the warmth I felt from Cedric the Entertainer really helped me go through. And I think that's what makes a good host, and they own it. That's their stage. They own that.
Can we take a second and reflect on the fact that there are very few people on this earth who can legitimately start a sentence with the warmth I felt from Cedric the Entertainer?
Yeah. When I think about my life, I hate feeling like I'm bragging, but I've gotten the chance to do some extraordinary things. And the fact that I've spent, I have no idea how long that taping took. A good significant period of time with Cedric the Entertainer is mind-boggling. I spent even more time with Terry Crews because I helped him prep for when he hosted Millionaire.
We're going to get to that because I didn't know that. But let's stay in this area of pre-contestant game show viewing, or at least being aware of game shows. With the, how do I want to ask this? How do I want to say this? With the love of performing that I think comes from watching a lot of professional wrestling, and again, idolizing the wrestlers, I'm surprised that you never wanted to be a game show host.
I never even considered it. It felt like the people who did it were going to do it forever. It felt like they were literally immortal and that this is just what they were going to do. And for a lot of them, it was until the moment that they weren't doing it anymore.
Right. Yeah, they do seem irreplaceable. Some of the more like the timeless hosts, the classic ones. But again, I'm noticing these similarities between, and we'll say now, the role of game show host versus the role of professional wrestler. I think that in both cases, if you were in a big room 10 feet away and there was a TV on the other side of the room, and you were watching either type of programming, you can look and see that the person on screen is running the thing, is in charge, is the man of the hour, you know what I mean? Or woman, but I think for better or worse, whatever, it was mostly men on TV in these roles when we were younger. I'm just noticing a lot of similarities there, and that seems to be something. Not to get too psychoanalytic here, but it seems like it's like a role that speaks to you, being the man for a minute.
Woo! It's what the kids call the Riz, right? Is that what they're calling it now?
Right.
Riz?
Right. You got Riz, right.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know when I thought being a contestant was a possibility. It all kind of happened really quick. And I don't think I never thought of being a TV personality. When I became a traffic reporter, that's when I was like, hey, I might be able to make a living doing this and be on TV and be one of those, local celebrities. That's when it popped into my head. I don't know if I ever thought of hosting anything. I'm thinking back to college. It was my roommates were doing the hosting. One of my buddies hosted a late night talk show on LaSalle 56, and I did radio, but I always was like a sidekick. I feel like I'm more Andy Richter than Conan O'Brien.
You really feel that way?
I feel like I feed off of people's energy better than I can present my energy authentically to other people. I like having that person to bounce off of. I think that would make me a good host. I don't know. I couldn't imagine what I would host. You know what? I would have a blast hosting Pyramid, I think. I think Pyramid would be fun to host.
What about Pyramid appeals to you?
I think it's the speed, and I always like, oh my God, I can't. Was it Chuck Woolery?
The Pyramid was Dick Clark.
Dick Clark.
Yeah.
The way he would explain the how he would get to the answer to the contestants. There was something about that I always liked, and it was never like condescending. It always came from a place of kindness.
No, but even in that, right?
Yeah.
You're coming in with the perfect answer. You're the man for a minute.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that game show contestants have in common. I mean, people get on game shows for all different reasons, whether it's financial or it's the social aspect of it, it's the fame aspect of it, it's, you love game, whatever. But I feel like that is at its core a quality that is common among the experiences altogether, is that it feels good to be the center of attention just for a second. You know what I mean?
Man, could you imagine what it felt like to host those legacy shows?
I think about it like in the context, and like in my context, right? And like, it had to have felt incredible. I mean, being on set for a good game show is electrifying because it's all the elements clicking together at the same time. It's everything working together to create this hopefully, perfect experience. So, to be the host of a show, and, going back to what you were talking about, I think that a good host does have exceptional ability to bounce off of other people, because, you look at a host like Bob Barker, right? That job is nothing if it's not bringing those moments out of regular, everyday, unrehearsed people. So you do have to be that kind of person.
Energy. Yeah.
Right. Where it takes a little bit, it's an interesting role, right? Because it takes a little bit of authority, but it also takes the ability to step back and not be the star of the show just for a second. Let the elements around you sort of breathe.
There's so much kindness in being a game show host that I don't think people really pick up on. And I think sometimes we kind of overlook it because you're dealing with people in an incredibly vulnerable state. I mean, I just watched that episode of The Wall where those people, for reasons unbeknownst to anyone, lost 2.6 million or whatever it was. And I'm just like, this is not the right host for this. I didn't feel the authenticity in the consoling of that family that lost a butt ton of money because it's a bad game show.
Yeah, I think that there is, and I agree with you, I don't like The Wall at all, but yeah. I think that there is a balance between, like, when it comes to having a lot of money on a show, right? I remember years ago when they were going to do the $1 Million Pyramid, right?
Oh yeah.
And they did a couple of pilots. It never made it. Years later, it became the $100,000 pyramid again. It's still on the air now on ABC. But years ago, they were going to do the $1 million pyramid. Can you imagine a contestant advancing all the way through what presumably would have been a tournament to get to that final $1 million, winner circle? Imagine the contestant or the celebrity giving an illegal clue and costing a contestant $1 million.
Well, that's the flip side of that is the bull expletive deleted on Netflix is once you get to $1 million, I mean, and you're one of the 3 panelists, are you just gonna believe them because you want to give $1 million to a fellow human being?
Right.
Especially if you tanked the accuracy portion and you're definitely not the next person up on stage. Giving that person $1 million is a flaw in that game that I'm hoping they don't fix before I get a chance to go on it.
Right. I think that there is, again, the game has to be strong enough that it could stand whether you're playing for $10,000 or $1 million. Like the game itself is going to be exciting. Money doesn't make a game exciting. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think that's what really makes I almost said Deal or No Deal. Let's make a deal so much fun. Is it's not always huge sums of money, but every now and then, it's a car or it is a huge sum of money.
Right, exactly. And I think it was like Mark Goodson did an interview once about Let's Make a Deal. He said the reality of that show is that you could just give the contestant a quarter and have them flip it every time.
Yep.
And that's essentially what the decision making on Let's Make a Deal boils down to. But the fact that you have intrigue in that the host of the show, who's Monty Hall, which I think he was the best host of that show ever. I don't think there's any competition there. No. He was just such a good ad-libber and just knew how to milk these situations and how to swing them in such a way that it's intriguing to watch, it's dramatic to watch. But at the end of the day, yeah, it really just comes down to the money or the box. Like that is the decision every time with different window dressing. But it's compelling TV.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be high stakes. It's still compelling. It's a fun show. I think that might be something I try for. That seems like just a boatload of fun.
Yeah, Let's Make a Deal would be fun as hell to host. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now you got me thinking I could host a game show. I got to get an agent.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like the type of entertainment that you're into lends itself well to this other area of entertainment.
Christian, you have $75,000 on the board. Your next question is worth $800,000 because this is a game show. I made up that it just exponentially goes up like that.
I came with nothing, Pat.
Do you want to walk away?
Well, it's either I take home $75,000 or have a chance at a mind-boggling $725,000 additional dollars.
This is like when we did the 24-hour game show marathon, and I was the bank. I'm like, I don't know.
You were the what?
When I was the bank for Deal or No Deal, I'm like, I am not cut out for this. I was told there would be no math.
You were the banker for Deal or No Deal?
Yeah, for one. Was that the 8th? Yeah, I think the 8th.
Did I know that? No, I didn't know that.
Sure.
I don't think I knew that. I think I'm just learning this right now.
Yeah.
I think I'm just learning this. Yeah. I also think you were supposed to tell me that. Fuck it. All right. So let's talk. All right, can you still hear me? I got a text. I want to make sure my...
Yep.
Okay, cool. Hold on. Let me check my phone. Oh, Kat is overhearing that you were the banker. She says, fucking stop. I am also just learning this. What the fuck?
It was just that one.
It was just the one. Kat, it was just the 8th one.
Yeah.
It wasn't the last one.
No.
So one of the points I make on a lot of these episodes when I'm talking to different contestants is the idea that there's a big jump to make between being a participant of game shows and being a game show contestant. So When was it in this journey for you that you realized you either could become or wanted to become a contestant on a game show?
I have always wanted to be on Jeopardy. Always. I didn't know about the online test until I was much older. But that was always a dream of mine, was to be on Jeopardy. I played with my dad almost every single night. And just really, that's the white whale for me. And every time I take the test, it gets in my head. When I knew I could be a contestant is when I saw Cory on The Chase. When I saw Cory on The Chase killing it, I was like, I can do this. This is someone I know. This is someone who, you know, I've hung out with and I have a similar vibe to. I can do this.
And I don't want to ask this. Was how do I want to go about this? Was Jeopardy the first show you ever tried to audition for?
No. Oh my God. I really wish you didn't ask this. The first show I ever tried to audition for as a contestant was a Boston Red Sox based dating game show. I think it was called Matching Socks or something equally as awful.
Tell me everything you remember about this.
God in heaven. I have no idea how I found it. I don't remember. I might have just saw it on Nesson watching a Red Sox game. And between the time I applied and booked the audition, I had met my now wife. And I said, hey, listen, this is going really well, but Red Sox tickets are expensive. So I'm probably still going to go on this show if I get it. Thankfully, I did not. I had a great interview. I thought I killed it. I feel like at that time, I might have been leaning heavily on, I was doing education. I was working with people who are on the autism spectrum. And I think they had a lot of people who were like that. So I think I was not standing out enough. But I got to go to a really great studio in Boston that overlooked Fenway to kind of do the audition process. And yeah, that is the first thing I really remember auditioning for, that you have just unlocked that memory. I'm sure my wife remembers. I'm sure she really remembers that. But
that's amazing. I've never even heard of that. That's incredible.
I think it was called Matching Socks. I feel like that's a terrible name someone would have come up with for a show like that. And they put you on a date at a game, which couldn't be a more stressful situation, I think, especially, you know, in Fenway. People are going to notice that.
So I feel like, and tell me if this is true to your experience, Pat, but I keep coming back to this idea of performance, the idea of the performative ability that a person would get from watching a lot of professional wrestling in the 90s, right? Because that is a role that requires extreme physical ability, but also, and this is from my limited memory of wrestling from around that era, because I was into it, but nowhere near as into it as somebody like you was. As somebody, I don't even know if that's a grammatical. It doesn't.
I think you are right.
Yeah. I wasn't into wrestling as much as somebody like you might have been.
Yeah. But
it also requires almost like a broadcaster's ability, because you're cutting promos, you're speaking directly to people at home. You know, there are scripts, there are things to say. You need to speak clearly and also possess this like incredible strength and perform these incredible feats in front of so many people. So I wonder if you didn't carry any of those skills into game show auditions. Did you find that that type of performative ability was something that you could harness?
100%. The best professional wrestlers aren't a character, with the exception of like The Undertaker. That's a character. That's not, you know, Mark Calloway. You know, it's The Undertaker. But Dwayne Johnson, John Cena, those guys turned up to 11. And having that ability to find that 11 is a skill that you get by being in professional wrestling. Especially, I cut my teeth in Philadelphia. When I was in front of a crowd, if I flubbed something, if I messed up, if I stumbled, stuttered, tripped getting into the ring, I mean, that's all that I was going to hear forever. And especially because these shows, it's the same people coming over and over again. So they would never, ever let you forget. So you got to be able to find that next gear and also stay in control of the situation. It's a lot of being completely aware of your surroundings at all times. And that absolutely came into play. Even getting Millionaire. And actually it got me on Monday Night Raw. I am on the Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania 20 because I went and camped outside Madison Square Garden and got tickets. And I saw a camera crew roaming around and they weren't stopping at me and my friend. And finally at the top of my lungs go, hey, 18 to 25-year-old male, I am your key demographic. The camera shot in front of my face and I am on an episode of Monday Night Raw.
Oh, that's incredible. So confidence feels like something that you could definitely sharpen, if not gain, from having this type of entertainment serve as a sort of role model.
It lets you show confidence even if you don't have it. You can't not be confident in the situation. And I think that helps you for shows like Millionaire, where you can slip up and have to regroup. And that's really where that professional wrestling training certainly helped.
Let's talk about Millionaire. Let's talk about Millionaire. Let's talk about first the audition process. How did you come about the opportunity to audition for Millionaire?
I got a text from my friend Matty V in Boston. He's like, hey, I'm going to be at the casino tonight, or whenever. It might have been a few days before. Why don't you come up to the casino? I'm like, what are you doing at the casino? Nobody just goes to the casino unless you have a gambling problem or you're going to see a show. He's like, oh, I'm auditioning for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And it's pretty cool. He's like, yeah, come and audition with me. I'm like, all right, let me see if I can get off work. And then my buddy Ron from Boston texted me, hey, I'm going to be in the area. I'm going to try out for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Why don't you come to the casino and hang out for a little bit? So with those two people bringing me there, I decided to make the drive up to Foxwoods Casino. I met my buddy Ron, who auditioned in the first test and audition period for lunch, and my buddy Matt showed up. I remember that we ate lunch at like Arthur Treacher's. Is that like a...
Yeah, Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips.
Yeah, that's what I had for lunch before then. And Ron was like, the test is so easy. He's like, there's one hard question. There's two different versions of the test. So, it's 50-50 that you're going to get it. And he told me it was a question about the order of the presidents on Mount Rushmore. And I did get that test. And I remembered that question. So, we ate with Ron. Matt and I went, and nobody at the audition had any energy. And I noticed this when I auditioned for The Chase as well, is that people are basically just standing there waiting to take a test. And it's like high school kids waiting for the period to pass so they can take their next test. And Matt and I, we went by Team Wicked's Matt. And both of us have big personalities. And we started making noise in the line and getting things going. And then there's cameras and there's producers. And this is before I even took the test. You go and you sit and you take the test. Matt and I were the last two people called who passed the test. I don't know if they did it in order of how many right you had or if they were just trying to build up drama, but we went nuts in the room. We just went crazy. And the cameras caught up to us again after that. And it started. I don't remember if I went to 2 more screen tests or 1. It all becomes a blur. I know I did at least 1 screen test after that.
I wonder if going to a game show audition at a venue like a casino presents an advantage to somebody who is familiar with what it takes to have a successful game show audition, right? Because watching game shows for so long, you know what a good contestant does, you know what a bad contestant does, and you know what to do and what not to do and what to accentuate in those situations. I found that when I go to game show auditions at places like casinos, which we're from Connecticut. I've been to I did Let's Make a Deal at Mohegan Sun. I think I did a Deal or No Deal audition at Foxwoods. I found that in those situations, it was a lot of people who just happened to be at the casino and they look at the audition as just like another opportunity to win money, as opposed to somebody like you or somebody like me who has an appreciation for television, for performance, for game shows, and sort of knows to treat it like an audition and not
just another pull of a slot machine here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I wonder if there's not an advantage there for people like us.
I think there absolutely is an advantage. I think the open casting calls, you see a lot of what not to do, and the people who are doing it don't realize that it's what not to do. I think a lot of people they think they can get by on their book knowledge, but these shows, aside from Jeopardy, and even Jeopardy is pushing more. I heard the conversation you had with the original like casting director. Even then they looked for some personality. But I think Jeopardy, you can get a lot further with your book smarts than you can for these shows that need you to create energy. And now, I mean, everybody's looking for a viral moment. And they're not going to get it by somebody who's just, I know trivia. I go to a bar trivia every weekend and I dominate. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants you to be a know-it-all. And nobody wants you to come to these casting calls with such low energy. What are you doing? You know what it's like to see people on TV. Don't just come there like you're at a funeral. Dress nice, look nice, have energy.
You know what I think it is, and this is a pure hypothesis. I've never really tested this or asked anyone about it, but I feel like when uninitiated people are put in a position where they have to now be the center of attention, they have to talk about themselves. They have to talk about themselves in a way that communicates the fact that they think they're the best for this role, right? Mm-hmm. When ordinary people are put into that position, I think they sort of shrink into themselves and get a little self-deprecating. I think they get a little less confident in themselves. And I think that comes across because I've been in so many auditions where I am shocked at how few people there are who don't communicate that energy that you like. And like you said, you see the show, you're auditioning because you see the show, you know what the people on this show do. Why aren't you doing that? But I think, and that's just something that, I guess that's an outsider's perspective, right? Because I've never really had that issue, but yeah, that's just sort of what it seems like to me. It's hard, I think, for an average person to communicate them thinking that they are above average, if that makes sense.
A lot of people don't see, and I mean, here's some life advice. Don't see what makes them special. And I think that if you don't see what makes yourself special, how are you going to tell a producer that? Once you get past the intelligence portion, they're rooting for you. They want you to succeed, and they want to be the one that found you. So they're going to help you. And man, I wish I could remember their names. I had so many PAs and producers who were just wonderful in the whole process for Millionaire. But people need to realize that there's stuff that makes them special, and they could, especially in game shows, don't be a jerk about it like on the internet. But when somebody's asking you why you're special, brag about yourself. I mean, I have the ultimate hook in every single time I'm going to go on a game show. I'm going to mention these two things. I was a professional wrestler and I was a cheerleader. So you can pick your hook from there, and I can tell you a million stories of varying degrees of entertainment value on each of those. And I also like to talk about myself. I mean, this is the second conversation we've had for a podcast. And I just enjoy talking about myself because, I don't know, I'm pretty happy with who I am.
How'd you get so good at trivia?
I have no idea. I think it's a memory thing. I hear something once and it sticks. I don't know. And I get really mad now. I can't go to like a trivia night. And do you remember when Trivia Crack was big on Facebook?
Oh yeah.
Everyone,
the app. I love it.
Everyone was hunting for me. And I'm like, yeah, just because you beat me in this doesn't mean you could go and win $250,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Like I'm special. That's when you get a little cocky.
Sure. You have to.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a conversation with a contestant a couple weeks ago, and in the conversation, I asked them, when do you think the work it took, because we talked about how much work it takes to become that kind of person that would be good in a game show. And I asked them, when do you think that work began? When in your life did you begin doing the work that would eventually make you a good game show contestant? And he said it was from birth. It was from day one. You have to grow up being that person who absorbs information and who loves to learn. Was that your situation?
Oh man, I'm gonna get real Oedipal on you. I think it was the desire to beat my dad. I wanted to beat him in Trivia Pursuit. I wanted to watch Jeopardy and get the answer before him. I think that's what it was. My dad wasn't a big athlete. I wasn't gonna back him down in the post, but I could take him on the court of knowledge and try and beat him like that.
Was he real smart?
My dad was really smart. Yeah. He was very good at Jeopardy. I'm surprised that he never took a crack at it. He might have. Actually, I'm trying to look back and think of my text message. I think he might have. But yeah, real smart dude and did not like losing, which made it all the more fun to do it.
What kind of personality did he have? Did he have a contestant personality?
No, he did not have the contestant personality. He was a little more quiet and reserved. But he's the reason that I wanted to do Jeopardy so badly. And I still do. I don't know if I'm going to take the test for a little bit. Every time I take it, it's like 2 days to recover.
I know what you mean. Don't you get in your head about the damn thing?
Oh, God.
Oh,
the answers that you know and just can't come up to it in that moment, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And not to know your score is evil. I don't know if producers of Jeopardy are listening to this, but what you're doing is evil and mean to people. And I know you've been doing it forever. It's still wrong.
The part of it that gets me, because you know what? I think that among the many times that I've taken the Jeopardy test, I've developed the ability to be honest with myself, where I know this probably was going to be a passing score. I know I got a lot wrong. I know I skipped a lot. So that part of it isn't as insidious to me as the idea that you don't know what a passing score is.
Yeah, you don't know what a passing score is, and you don't know what your score is anyway.
In what other part of society would you be able to get away with that? If doctors took their finals and they didn't know what a passing score was, they just took it, the world would be in shambles.
And from the conversations that you've had previously, they will overlook bad scores for good people.
Oh, for sure. And that's not even specific to Jeopardy. I think that's game shows in general.
Yeah.
Because, game shows are a business the way anything else is a business. And they don't make money by only getting the people who know every answer to every question. Nobody makes money like that other than those people. And then they bankrupt the show and the show goes away. But yeah, there is a definite balance. And I love that I've learned that from this point of view, seeing game shows from this angle and realizing that, there's so many little nuances like that. And it's a real science.
What's great about Jeopardy, and actually every game show, but more so Jeopardy, is anybody could be a champion once they get on stage. The Jeopardy's been very good about putting entire categories on TikTok lately, and that's kind of sometimes how I digest it. And so many of those categories, I am just, if I ever got on the show and I just saw something like this, I would be so excited. It'd be like Boston Red Sox players, episodes of Community, 1990s hip hop. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna win. You have that dream sequence where you see all the categories that you want coming straight up.
Speaking of Boston Red Sox, what was the audition for Matching Socks like?
It was just like just a behind the camera interview. a lot of questions about who I was and what I wanted. And, you know, it was really weird. I don't understand how people do those dating shows. It felt intrusive, but it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like they weren't asking anything utterly personal, but it still felt intrusive. It was like a confessional from Real World or Big Brother, Survivor, any of those shows.
And different from the interview process that you went through after the Millionaire test.
Yes, much different, much different. Yeah, and those were all in person. You know, I mentioned my two other friends who did Millionaire with me, both passed the test and both opted for online instead of in person because they were in Massachusetts and you had to get to Harlem. It was not as easy for them as it was for me to just hop on, you know, Metro North and get off at 125th Street. And so I did them in person. And I didn't care, you know, what's a $15, $30 investment if I can make $1 million?
I find that I thrive in-person auditions, in-person activity when it comes to game shows. Conversely, I find that I am horrible at Zoom. I'm horrible at video auditions. I'm horrible at any of it.
Yeah. When I'm sure we'll get to it, but I had to do 3 or 4 Zoom auditions for You Bet Your Life. And I just, every time I felt like I was awful. And I got to the final round of casting for the most recent Deal or No Deal reboot. And we did an in-person one. Number one, the hardest thing is they want lighting. Like I actually went and got professional lighting for the Deal or No Deal audition so I could try not to just be backlit or uplit the whole time.
Good for you. That's awesome.
I had friends in theater. They brought it over.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Still didn't get it. Really thought I had a chance.
I'm gonna I don't know if I'm gonna leave this in, but I'll tell it anyway. I had an audition for Deal or No Deal, the newest one that they did on CNBC, I think.
Yeah, that's where it was on. Yep.
Okay. So I had put in the application, and that period of my life, I was realizing that I was finding a lot of comfort in settling down and being a little more mellow and not being the fucking guy 24 hours a day, turning it off once in a while. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I was finding a lot of like comfort in that. I was like, I need to be more picky about the shows that I'm on. I need to be more discerning when it comes to opportunities like that, because I don't know that I'm going to have the energy forever to keep that up. I can't be Price is Right me every year of my fucking life. I'm getting older. I can't do that. And it was around that time that I got a phone call from a Los Angeles number. I picked up and I said, hello. And he said, hey, is this Christian? And I said, yes, it is. And he said, hey, this is Ken from Deal or No Deal. And I said, hey, Ken, how's it going?
Oh, you didn't just snap it on. Oh,
let me finish. So I said, hey, Ken, how's it going? He said, good. Is this a good time to talk? And I said, yeah, it's a good time. I'm not busy. He said, all right. Well, I just want to know why you would be the perfect, excellent, most excellent contestant for Deal or No Deal. You can tell me as quickly as you can. And I hung up the phone.
Oh, man.
I just couldn't. I just could not be fucking bothered.
This is the problem in this day and age with these spoof phone numbers. And like, I see LA, I'm like, sweet, I'm booking a game show. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And then I hear that effing beep. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to unleash hell on you.
Yep.
You scam son of a bitch.
Yeah. And I just did not. And something in my head said, I can't do this. I'm not doing this. I won't do it. And I hung up.
When I got one of the calls, I don't remember. I was in the casting process for The Wheel and You Bet Your Life at about the same time. And I got a call. I was in the Crayola Experience in PA. And I was like, just give me a second. Let me find a quiet space.
Yeah. The struggle of an aspiring game show contestant.
Like, there's children everywhere. Who brought all their kids to this place that's definitely for children?
That it's true. And that when I hung up the phone, that like in our life, me and Kat as a couple, that in our life represented a paradigm shift, because I think that up to that point I was obsessed with like being that guy all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that an old version of me would have jumped at that opportunity and any other opportunity that would have come across, and I would have put it on and, shucked and jived and did the whole thing. But, it was like from that point on. And I don't know if this is going to be helpful to anyone else listening who wants to audition for a show or has auditioned and, hasn't found a lot of success with it. It was that point on that I realized I could be me, that me as a person, the character, not the character, but the person that I am, and the actual interests and aspirations and fears and strengths and weaknesses that make me who I am every day as an actual person are perfectly valid to bring into an audition. I don't have to be a cartoon every single time. Of course, be a little animated. Of course, act like you're going to be on damn TV. But at the same time, don't be somebody you're not. And I don't think I realized that until that point in my life. I think that the first chapter of like my game show journey, I was going about it the wrong way, and I had some success with it, but it never really felt like I was being myself. I was embarrassed. And that's another thing. And tell me if you've gone through this. I was embarrassed to go through the audition process in front of other people. I used to tell Kat, go get a coffee or something. I have to audition for a show. It was almost like, I don't want you to see what I have to do.
Don't look at me.
Yes. I was like, I don't want you to see what I have to do in order to do this. And not that I was, being vulgar or doing anything like demeaning, but it just felt like I was embarrassed to be that person that I thought I needed to be in order to get in a game show. And I didn't realize that who I was valid enough.
It's tough. It's a balancing act, because you do need to be larger than life, but they don't want that phony. Nobody wants that fake person who is just kind of like laughing at the joke to laugh at the joke. It's not an authentic laugh. Who's cracking wise to just kind of crack wise. You need to be natural and yourself. But you had success, while you were, because that to a certain extent that is or was you getting up there and going a little bit nuts. But yeah, it takes all kinds, right? That's what's great about it. I talked about how I like the physical ones. What's really amazing about game shows is gender, age, sexual orientation all melts away. It's you and the questions. Right. And it takes all kinds, and anybody can be successful up there. That's what makes it beautiful. And sure, there's a place for that Christian who's going nuts, has that Price is Right energy. But there's also the one that walks up there and hugs Mario Canton,
Oh, yeah. Oh, Mario Canton was awesome. I love, we talked a lot like during the commercials and stuff. He was great. So you have the audition for Millionaire.
Yep.
And you get a callback, 2 callbacks, however many callbacks it was. So through this process, is your dad aware of how far you're making it?
No, my dad and I were a bit estranged at that point in time. So no, he wasn't really, nobody was, just my wife. Shayna was the only one who really knew what was going on at that point in time. I was kind of keeping it on the low.
And that was a conscious decision to not
Absolutely
broadcast that. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you superstitious in that way? I am superstitious in that if I have a potential opportunity, I don't want to talk about it, because if it doesn't come through, I'll look like an idiot.
I don't know if I'm superstitious, is that I don't want to talk about it after it didn't come through. So I was on vacation, like I said, at Crayola with my friends, and they kept asking, oh, what's going on with that game show? What's going on with that game show? And I'm like, I didn't get it. And honestly, did the wheel ever premiere?
It premiered and got canceled almost like during its first episode.
Yeah. I loved that show. That's a great show.
It is a good show. It is a good show. Did not get a fair shake, but it's a good show.
Yeah. I don't know if it's superstitious. I think it served me well, because afterwards I taped on like August, the beginning of August, and it didn't air until November. And so I only told 2 people aside from my wife who was in the studio audience, and not talking about it beforehand certainly helped with that.
And at what point after the callbacks did you get the notification that you were going to be on the show? How long did you wait? And where were you when you got that call or whatever, notification you received?
I got a call. I was actually at work. And so I was able to talk to my boss right then and there to get off. Beginning of August, I think in the middle of August, they called me, and I taped in the beginning of September of 2013.
Everybody had these long breaks in between the call and the appearance. I had 2 days.
You were in a Millionaire in a different time. It was such a different show then.
In what way?
I mean, I was on the syndicated version, and it wasn't that like primetime big lights, and it wasn't this constant need to one up and get the next person. They were getting like a stable of people together. They were burning through episodes. I was shocked at how many Millionaire they taped in a day. I was even more shocked at how many You Bet Your Life they taped in a day.
Oh, You Bet Your Life is like a budget show. Like they knocked that shit out.
Oh my God. It's crazy. It's crazy how many episodes they get through.
But anyway, okay, so Millionaire. So let's talk about that. So you were on a version of the show hosted by Cedric the Entertainer.
Yep.
And he only did it for a season, I believe.
1 season. Yep.
What role, and this goes back to something that you were talking about earlier, because you had mentioned that you don't think you would have done as well if it was somebody like Meredith Vieira, who had hosted the syndicated version previously. What role do you think Cedric the Entertainer had in your success? What did he bring to you that you felt enabled you to do as well as you did?
He had a huge role in my success. When we talk about actual gameplay, we'll come to a moment where I kind of botched a spot, and that's professional wrestling talk leaking in there. And it went to a commercial either right after that or shortly after that, and Macklemore's Can't Hold Us started playing, and Cedric's just kind of dancing. I started dancing. I was like, Cedric, you got to check this out. And I started fist bumping. I'm like, the Jersey Shore said they did it, but I'm from East Haven, and this is ours. We do the fist pump here. And I just remember laughing with him, and he just put me at ease all the time. What a warm personality he is. I really wish he came to the wedding. I invited him to my wedding. I taped 1 month and like 3 days, or a little less than a month before my wedding. I taped the day I closed on my first house. We literally wiped out all of our savings to put a down payment on our first house. And I went and, no, it was my last audition. That was my last audition. I went and I'm like, well, this just became life or death. So, he had so much. I couldn't imagine Meredith. I think I could have survived Reg. I love Regis. And I think, we talked earlier about how Monty Hall is the host of, I keep wanting to call it Deal or No Deal. Let's make a deal.
Right.
And I think obviously Reg is like the Millionaire host.
He is indelibly associated with that role. Yeah. That was when that show premiered, that was like that was the next chapter for me, because it brought game shows back. You know what I mean? And that was just a whole paradigm shift for me.
Yeah.
So Cedric was that warm and that inviting.
He was amazing. He was so witty and so warm, and put me at ease in a way that I didn't know that anybody else really could. He felt like he was rooting for me the whole time, and it really helped. It really helped.
And it helped you win $250,000.
Yes, sir.
What was your question? What was your $250,000 question?
It is perennially locked up on the corner Monopoly board. This character is named, and it was like Prisoner Pete. I don't remember. They were all alliterative, and Jake the Jailbird. And I had watched the video on the toilet at work because I was studying constantly for Millionaire. It was like 25 characters you don't know have names. And that was one of them. And it just stuck in there.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I have it permanently tattooed on my body. I have Jake the Jailbird.
Good for you.
Yeah.
$250,000. And like you mentioned, it was, I'm sure you're exaggerating when you say it was life or death, but pretty high stakes considering you had wiped out your life savings at that point and you were hopefully going to win a huge amount of money on this show. And you did.
Yeah. I still have, it's still surreal to think about. And what's really funny is I've rewatched it recently and man, it doesn't get any easier. It is so anxiety inducing.
Oh yeah, it sure is. I get asked all the time what it was like being in that studio, and it's hard to describe unless you're there, but the feeling of just sitting in the middle of that studio with everybody sitting literally around you, you're in the round.
Stupid lights and that stupid music.
Oh, see, I didn't even have that. They didn't play the music in the studio when I was on.
That would have been great. When I stepped on that stage and I'm like, oh, the music isn't in post-production. It's here now live. Okay, great.
You know what they played? Just the sound of the clock. I had a clock on my season, so it was just the ticking of the clock. Absolutely nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I could imagine. For me, it's that music and that eerie background noise and I don't even like talking about it. Gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I want to get a wrestler's perspective on this because you described to me the atmosphere in the studio surrounding you when you won the $250,000. What did that feel like? What were you taking in? Describe to me what that was like.
I ran for my fiance, now wife. I just ran for her and wrapped my arms around her. I was looking at all the faces in the crowd going wild and taking it from a professional wrestling standpoint, man, that's what that pop, that crowd going nuts for you it's what you live for. That pop is amazing. When you throw open the curtain and you come out and people are excited to see you and your music has them amped. And I just remember I was going crazy. I'm so glad my pants were so tight. I'm so glad I didn't like rip a pants or pop a button.
So did they provide pants to you?
No,
they didn't. You brought your own.
Yeah. Own clothes.
Yeah. I think I brought my own clothes too, and you can definitely tell that I brought my own damn clothes. But
they did not give. They didn't have me try on multiple things. When I was on You Bet Your Life, I tried on multiple outfits. So I had to keep changing. But the shirt I really wanted to wear, they said the print was too tight. The pattern was too tight, and it causes people to like see optical illusions on TV on occasion. Like, oh, fair enough, I won't wear that.
I think the only show that I did that dressed me was Hip Hop Squares. They gave me all those clothes, and it was like a purple t-shirt and like an orange and purple like open flannel shirt. It looked terrible, and then they buttoned it right before we went on. I said, okay, we're gonna button this, and it didn't fit me. So like it just looks like a bunch of zigzags going down my chest because the buttons are just like getting ready to pop off this shirt.
Yeah. That's a funny one that they dressed you for that. I guess MTV was trying to maintain a certain image.
I guess so. I don't know. It was fun as hell, but yeah, they did give me some tragic clothes for that. So $250,000 on Millionaire. Tell me what you were able to do or accomplish or see as a result of winning that money.
So the deal was if I got over $100,000, I could buy a Disney Vacation Club. It was literally the first thought after I got 100,000. I'm like, well, at least I got a Disney Vacation Club. Everything else is gravy. And so I bought a Disney Vacation Club, and I'm able to take my daughter. We go multiple times a year. And she believes that the castle is her castle, and she let Cinderella borrow it. So I don't know how good that is for her moving forward, but it allowed me so many opportunities, and it allowed me to go on my honeymoon and just kind of be like, F it. I don't care what we do, what we spend here. There will be a big check in our future very soon. And so just to kind of have the best time. Luckily, I have an amazing wife, and we were in Bermuda and Hamilton has a ton of high-end stores, including Louis Vuitton. And I was like, baby, let's just go pick out anything you want from Louis Vuitton. She's like, I love you. I'm not going to do that. Let's walk to the store and we can point at an item and you can guess how much it is. And I guessed, of course, very low. And she's like, no, honey, that is a $50,000 suitcase. I was like, oh, cool. Let's go back to a fancy restaurant.
Oh, shout out to Shayna. She's a real one.
Yeah. Oh, she's amazing. She's
Wonderful.
Amazing. If you recently watched the episode, because I know you say you do your research for this, if you see her face, because she's in the shot over my shoulder, when I say, I think it was C, Jake the Jailbird, final answer, and said it with such confidence, her face drops. She's like, I'm going to murder him when he gets out of here. He just lost so much money.
Right. Oh, God, what an incredible win that is.
Yeah.
Did you get any, like, press attention or any, like, local attention?
I got a small article in the Register, and that was it.
Okay, you have a register, yeah?
Yeah, no TV stuff or anything, because it wasn't the big deal that it was, in the Regis days. I think it was just a quick and easy thing and got a nice little story about me. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if I do that game again. I do just about any other game, but that experience was such a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And it just, as far as I know, no non-celebrity has topped me since my episode.
That's an achievement. Holy crap.
Yeah. Including several fellow LaSalle alum who have tried and not defeated me.
Incredible. And so does your success on that show trigger a hunger for more? Do you audition for more shows? Are you looking for more opportunities? What other shows were you looking at that point?
I went to the Chase because I wanted the Chase bad.
Yeah.
And I went to a casting call in New York City. I took the test, and I don't know if I bombed the test or aced the test, because through conversations I've heard from you and from Cory and from other people, is that they weren't looking for people to really win big anymore after season 1. And so I don't know if I did really well or really poorly. I felt confident that I did well, but I never heard back from them. And then I chilled. I chilled for a long time. I didn't really think about anything else, but I wanted the Chase. I probably did a couple of Jeopardy tests, and it wasn't almost 10 years later until I did another show.
And 10 years later, it was You Bet Your Life. Were you at all familiar with the genesis of You Bet Your Life? Had you ever seen the original, like with Groucho Marx and all that?
I mean, great uncle Buddy Hackett hosted it.
That's right. He sure did for a season. Yep.
Yeah. My dad, again, bring it back to my dad, was really all about the Marx Brothers. And, I must have watched, I don't know how, because it's not like I had YouTube back then, but maybe we had old videos or saw it somewhere. It was on one of those Time Life videos that they used to sell at like 3:00 in the morning.
Sure.
Yeah,
one of those TV classics.
Yeah. I was really familiar with it. I knew about the duck coming down with the secret word. And, it felt good to be on what I considered a legacy type game show. I think they're few and far between. I think it's Price is Right, Jeopardy, Wheel. I'll add You Bet Your Life to that. Let's Make a Deal. And I think, now we're seeing a little bit more with the return. I always want to call it Whammy because that was the version that I remember so vividly, but Pressure Luck and Pyramid and Password and oh man.
Right. Yeah, we're sort of in a golden age of revivals and it's really cool. And I think that a lot of producers have gotten a solid grasp on how to bring back a show in a way that isn't alienating to the people who like the original, but also isn't so faithful to the original that it looks old and tired. Do you know what I mean? They struck a nice balance, I think.
Well, I think when Whammy came out, it was a little too much of a change.
Well, I think so. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that one of the things that the new Press Your Luck does really well is that it is a definite divide between the old and the new. The first half hour is the show that everybody watched. The second half hour is this new bonus round that is in line with, a typical game show of the 21st century.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the way The Price is Right. It was like originally a very simple game. They have 4 people spitting on things. And when it came back, the 50s show is just the intro to the 70s show. We're going to play the original, but it is just the gateway to this other dimension of this game that we created. And I think that Press Your Luck does that in a similar way really well.
Yeah, I just filled out the questionnaire for Press Your Luck, and by far, it is the best application that I have taken. They're leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else, what they're asking in the application. I had so much fun filling it out.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great when it's fun to go through that process?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tiring when it's the same questions, but they were like, what are 5 items besides cash that you would like to win? Oh my God, what a great question. A new car. Everybody who goes on a game show wants to hear someone say a new car. I was like, a jet ski, because where else am I going to get a jet ski? I'm not going to buy a jet ski, but if you give me a jet ski, I will have a jet ski.
That's right. That's right. Are you in the running for Press Your Luck?
I hope so. I don't know. It's so hard right now with the writer's strike.
Well, that's true. Well, yeah, no, I guess you're right. That is something that's affecting them right now.
Yeah. Plus, like, so many things haven't been picked up yet. I'm still waiting to hear, but I am aggressively going after a show because working's for suckers.
You should just wish you could make a career out of doing the game show thing. I feel like if there were enough shows, I could make a living doing this.
Oh, absolutely. I think about what James and company did like the boot camp. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people who can help out more than him. He's a unique specimen. And I feel like a lot of people that, we do the 24-hour game show marathon with would be people who could really run that boot camp and get you in shape to be a contestant.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think that idea works to a certain degree. I don't know. I'm not convinced that all of the skills to be a contestant can be taught. I think you do have to be a certain type of person.
Yeah.
And I don't think James is that type of person at all. They try to force feed this guy to everybody watching game shows like he has a personality so bad.
He's that bad, but I think he is who he is, and he's not the every person. He is successful because, number one, he's brilliant. Number two is he has that killer shark mentality from being a gambler that goes out there, and not every show calls for that. And if I was on the new version of The Chase, I would not want to run into him. That would not be the one that I would like to see. I would like Jennings, although I know he doesn't do it, but I want Jennings, my enemy.
Your arch nemesis.
My arch nemesis, because I beat him on Millionaire, and I showed after he was on Millionaire, I tweeted at him and I said, "Hey Ken," and I put a picture of me and Cedric and the 250,000, and then he responded with his Jeopardy winnings, and I was like, "Yeah, you win this round, Jennings. We'll beat you on that one show."
So going back to You Bet Your Life. One of the words that I would use to describe the new version of You Bet Your Life with Jay Leno is cozy. It seems like a cozy show. There isn't a live audience from what I can gather.
There is.
Is there?
Yep.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh, I want to take that sentence again then.
Yeah.
So one of the words that comes to mind when I think about the new You Bet Your Life with Jay Leno, which I've seen a few episodes of, including yours, is cozy. It seems like a very cozy atmosphere. And it seems like I'll call it relaxing. I don't know that experience could ever be relaxing with the cameras and the lights and the host and all that and the questions and the money, but it definitely seems like a change of pace from something like Millionaire. It almost seems I guess I'll use the word relaxing. Yeah.
I was so upset at how little they used of my episode. They cut it to shreds. And
You told me that, and I'm really interested by that because the show historically has always been about the interaction between the host and the contestants first, and the game second. I mean, the game is important, but people used to watch You Bet Your Life, and I think the show has a reputation for being about the interplay between the host and the contestants. And you told me that they cut a lot of your interaction with Jay out.
yeah, they cut a lot of my interaction with Jay. There is a story about me being a mascot in Philly and, stealing the Philly Phantom's head, allegedly. And there was a lot more play between me and Kevin, obviously, from being from Philadelphia. When we talked about my pro wrestling, we talked a lot about when Jay and Kevin were main eventing WCW pay-per-views back in the day against Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman. Like, we talked about that, and the conversations felt great. I don't think they do a good job with the whole, these people are meeting for the first time ever on stage, because my partner did not get that memo. And if you look, she's a little shook. Because when we were backstage, she is talking to me, and apparently she did not get the same message I did. That was, do not talk to her. And so she thought I was this jerk. And I felt so bad until we were leaving the stage. And she's like, oh my God, that's great. We did so well. So I thought you hated me. I'm like, did they not tell you not to talk to me? Because they repeatedly told me not to talk to you. We were in 2 divided bullpens for the show, and they pulled people out one bullpen, one of the other bullpen. And I got the message very clearly. I wasn't supposed to talk to her until we got on stage.
But that didn't really affect your on-stage chemistry, at least when it came to the game, because you won the maximum that you could win on that show, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. And they made a much bigger deal about it on the show. And when they come back for commercial, it's just Jay nonchalantly sitting at the desk telling us that it's the maximum. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Jay Leno was really nice. To be able to be in his presence was really cool. And it's a fun show. It is a lot more relaxing. It's a lot more about personality than the questions. The questions aren't crazy hard. So a couple people in the green room with me, and including the people who were on after me, did not do as well. We had I don't know if it's Daniel. He's the guy on TikTok who asks people in nice cars what they do for a living.
Right.
He was in my green room.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he did not do great on the show. But he got to do a bit with Jay, and it was really funny. I was just out there trying to have the most personality, because once you've been on a show like Millionaire, and listen, I'm not here to poo-poo any sum of money. That sum of money is, a month's worth of pay, and for some people, it's a lot more than that. But it's not bigs with multiple zeros behind it. So, like, if I left there with a couple $100, I was happy. They flew me to California. I got to eat, good food. I got to go to Disneyland. I got to see the Pacific Ocean. And I got to watch the Celtics play the Golden State Warriors in a brew pub feet from the water in LA. And it was a great experience. And then to be able to win the most feels good.
Well, at the end of the day, right, I think that is the prize. And I've mentioned this a few times as well. The fact that so many people audition for these shows, and so many people fall away from the process, and the callbacks and the second callbacks and the tests. And, it's a very relatively few people that get to have the full experience and get on the show. So winning, I mean, in my opinion, had always been sort of icing on the cake. The fact that I was on the show was an enormous victory. And for you to be able to do that more than once, I mean, it has to feel like a blessing, right?
I think for me, the real blessing was being asked by the producers to come back and train Terry Crews.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So Cedric won and done, and then was replaced by Terry Crews the next season. And I got a call from a Stamford, Connecticut number. I'm like, oh, Vince, he's finally smartened up. I'm going to join the WWE. And it was the producers of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I say, hey, Patrick, it's whoever from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We know you're in Connecticut, and we're wondering if we give you like $100, would you come and play a practice game of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with us to help us train our new host, Terry Crews? And I'm like, you're going to give me $100 to do this? It's like, I will be there for free, but the 100's nice, you know? And so I got to play a game with Terry Crews, and he practiced his banter, and he is one of the nicest human beings you can ever meet. He also is the best smelling person I've ever met in my entire life. You know how in Anchorman, Ron Burgundy says he smells like rich mahogany? No, Terry Crews smells like rich mahogany and I don't know what else, but just the nicest human being. And in my practice game of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Terry Crews, I won $250,000.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And good.
Yeah. What a fascinating process to be part of. What struggles, if any, did you pick up on in terms of Terry Crews learning to host this show? Was there anything in particular that he, from your point of view, was apprehensive about?
So I think it was really different than Cedric. Terry Crews is very, very excitable, and his energy is a different vibe than Cedric. And I think he was just had that hectic pace to him. I loved it. I got to be on as a +1, so I got to appear on his show. My buddy Kevin Brady took me as his +1, and he's so exuberant every time someone gets a question right. It was really great. I don't think he has any hesitation. I think he's a great host. I think he has a future if he wants to. I actually thought he would have been a good choice to replace Pat Sajak.
Oh, that would have been a great idea. Yeah. But going back to what you were talking about regarding the warmth of a person like Cedric the Entertainer, do you think you would have done as well in real circumstances with a host like Terry Crews, who is inviting in a different way? He's a little more excitable and definitely invested in the success of the contestant, but in a way that maybe isn't as warm and is not much more of a fist bump than an embrace, right?
Yeah. He's yeah, I don't know. I think I hit the perfect storm because I was on my lifelines were different than everybody else. I was on the Build a Bank version. I had just a perfect storm in my time on Millionaire, and I really liked what they did with some of the lifelines when they changed it up to Terry Crews. I like the +1. I think if it comes back, which I think it should come back, it shouldn't just be celebrities.
It'll come back.
Yeah, I think the +1 is a really good lifeline. Have somebody in there in person with you. I don't know if I would have done as well with Terry Crews. I was super relaxed because I knew I was playing a practice game. I mean, I still wanted to do well. There's still a competitive nature, but man, he's like a chaotic happy energy. You know, in the alignment chart, there's not a chaotic happy, but that's what I would describe him as, chaotic happy.
And in closing, I wonder if, Pat, you could reflect on how you feel about this journey, how you feel about going from a kid who loved watching the physical game shows on Nickelodeon to being a $250,000 winner on Millionaire, to being a multiple-time game show contestant and being able to achieve these huge personal milestones in the context of this game show journey. How do you feel thinking back on all of that?
Man, that's a really great question. It's really thoughtful. I feel like it has been life-changing in more than the money. It's introduced me to a world that I don't think I knew existed with these crazy game show people, and the friendships I've made through that have been amazing. The things that it's allowed me to do, you know, take my daughter to Disney World. I'd never even thinking I would have a kid. Being able to, when my dog was sick, to not really worry about, you know, dropping a couple $1,000s to keep my dog alive. And that's something I probably don't think I've really processed too much. I don't mind being known as like the game show person, and I want more because it's just such a fun experience. There is very little that I can compare it to because there's so much unknown. You know, the happiest day of my life, obviously my wedding, the birth of my daughter. But I knew it was going to happen in those situations. At least I had a really strong idea. I was going to get married. My daughter was going to come out. I was going to meet her. The unknown and the thrill of it all and the story that you have. I think everything in life is about the stories you can tell. And I think that's what you are doing is so important because you're telling these stories of this group of people that maybe isn't as well known, that people didn't know that there was people tape trading video game shows back in the day and you know, going over and wondering what happened to that episode of Jeopardy that they stopped airing. And it's shedding light on this really wonderful group of people that has this passion for something that can change anyone's life. You might not be able to teach what it takes to be a contestant, but take that risk. You never know. I think that's what's great is you don't need to be an athlete. You can just go and answer a few questions, and it's you against the questions. And it just any given day, any given deck of questions, you could be a millionaire. And at bare minimum, you now have a story to tell your friends and family for the rest of your life.
Tell Us About Yourself. Conversations with Game Show Contestants is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Christian Carrion, from my studio in beautiful downtown Lancaster City, Pennsylvania. Co-executive producer Cory Anotado. Researcher Chuck Donegan. This has been a production of BuzzerBlog, the most popular game show website in the world, in partnership with the National Archives of Game Show History at the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. For more information, visit museumofplay.org. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Christian Carrion. Good night. Tell Us About Yourself. Conversations with Game Show Contestants is produced in partnership with the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, one of the largest history museums in the United States and one of the leading museums serving families with highly interactive exhibits and programs. Since 1968, the Strong Museum has been dedicated to exploring the ways in which play encourages learning, creativity, and discovery, and how it illuminates cultural history. And their National Archives of Game Show History. Founded by industry veterans Bob Bowden and Howard Blumenthal, the archive is home to thousands of artifacts representing over 80 years of broadcasting, including props, set designs, video interviews with game show professionals, and other iconic elements from the history of television at play. For more information about the National Archives of Game Show History or the Strong National Museum of Play, visit museumofplay.org or call area code 585-263-2700.